my joy and honor to welcome Tom Habib to the Conscious Evolution Summit. Welcome, Tom.
Good morning. Welcome. I'm glad to be here, Puria.
Yeah, same. And I just want to read a brief introduction. So you are a clinical psychologist specializing in guiding couples through the predictable stages of an intimate relationship and what it takes to reach the higher levels of connection. Tom is also chairperson of IEC's International Consortium of Integral Scholars. And Tom, I saw you in the IEC just a few weeks ago, and I was really touched by what you brought into the space and in your workshop, your knowledge about relationship and how we can really bring it to higher levels. And I mean, the summit is about consciousness, and it's about really evolving in our most bright and evolved level. And relationship, we all know our relationships are a territorium, I would say, where a lot of unconscious material, a lot of things can be triggered. And I see it also as a huge opportunity to use the space of a relationship really to grow and to mature. And so I'm so happy that you said yes to my invitation, because there are not so many experts out there where I really feel a resonance, but with your work I do. And maybe just, Tom, can you give us a brief journey into your life, into your history? What brought you into this space where you now really, since quite a lot time already, many years, you support couples in their journey of growth?
Wow. I didn't expect to start there, but that's a nice start. At 18 years old, my best friend was getting married, and he asked me to be the best man. And I'll never forget, we're still friends, thank God. I said, I won't participate in a bourgeoisie activity supported by the Catholic Church, and I refused to be in his wedding.
Wow.
Fast forward ahead to graduate school and doing my personal therapy as part of the growth. My therapist, and I was doing my dissertation in marital satisfaction. And my therapist said, Tom, do you think you're afraid of marriage? And it hit me like a brick that because of my developmental history, she was absolutely right. I had fear about marriage. Now, I like that I moved towards the fear rather than contract and pull away. But I didn't connect the dots until that moment in the therapy, is that's why I was doing this. So all along the way, the ideas of perfecting the intimate relationship, which is the hardest place to do it in, because there's so much online that comes up. Couples say they want intimacy, but as soon as it's at the threshold, they contract because of the exposure and things we're going to talk about today, depending where they are developmentally. So my work today is in these integral communities, as you had seen, Puria. What I did at IEC is looking at those moments of resonance and trying to create coherence, trying to stabilize out those moments we all love, where we can feel it emerging, that unity. And we just love that. We keep returning over and over because we want that. So it is the familiarity with that I bring to couples. But it's like a three-ring circus. I have to stabilize their physiology. I have to make sure developmental issues aren't emerging at that moment. And some couples, I call it pixie dusting them. I can give them a taste of the future and what it could be. Although without major structuring, many of them can't handle it. But that's what I'm doing these days is I'm working in the integral community. What I get is people that are aware of their internal world, and it's easier to do it with them than it is intimate couples that don't have either the languaging or the familiarity with all of this.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to make our audience aware, because I sense already resonance in our connection. I sense how coherence already happens. I notice it, how my whole body is kind of registering it and moving in it. I feel a feeling of expansion. There is kind of softness. I tune into your voice. And I don't want to miss this moment, because this is so precious. And I want everybody who is now joining our conversation to open and be receptive and notice that, because it's not just information and what we are talking about, but in a way we take you into this atmosphere, we invite you into the space so that you can really sense it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who you're with really requires two people that can have moments of attunement. And when we open the space, we kind of honor it. And, we stay lateral. We don't go vertical in our comments, just to contain it. I mean, we're just on the threshold right now. So, I mean, you and I could stay here forever and do this. Because it's easy with you. It's easy. I can feel people immediately who have that ability. And then there's many, I even find in therapy, highly sensitive people, that whole diagnostic is coming up, that people have a gift. And it usually shows up as anxiety. And when I stabilize them out, when I get them conscious of slowing down how much they're taking in, they really have ability. I mean, as soon as you connect, you can feel them. So they would be able to enter the space with us. So we're already getting distracted by it, aren't we?
Yes, and I love that.
Can I move on?
Yeah, please.
So, so some of you recognize this. This is Rumi 800 years ago, and I'm always amazed how he knew this. Your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it. And boy, on a clinical level, that's what I'm constantly seeing. Couples say they want it, but they can't handle it. So if I was going to rewrite the marital vows, this is what I would write. Will you take the temper tantrums, the sensitivity, the overreactions, the insecurities, the character defects, the control issues, the unrealistic expectations in the lower left, the unresolved family issues, and the uncontrolled regressions? The ones in color I have written or lectured about. At least I got the last part of it right, for better or for worse. There's so much that comes online in intimacy. It's why it's the most difficult place to really achieve even resonance for a couple. And later on, I'm going to show you everyone a technique of how you can do it with your spouse if you set it as an intention. But it's because of all four quadrants, these issues hitting at once, that create this. Is screen back up?
Mm-hmm. Screen is there.
Oops, wrong way. So if I was to say the quality of intimacy in a relationship is dependent upon, in the upper left, one's individual developmental history, the upper right, your ability to either down-regulate exposure or up-regulate sensitivity over the lower left, the cultural expectations, all the pre-trans fallacies, the unrealistic expectations. I always like to cite this study. There's 25,000 women in America who read 20 or more romance novels a week.
Wow.
I mean, that is a woman's obsession with the fantasy. And we know what men do in terms of objectification of the physicality. And then on the right, the strength of the couple's patterns and rules. This is crucial. In my work on regression, and I'll show you a link later on where people can find it, either academic or presentations a lot like this, I've really detailed out the structure in the lower right that's necessary for this to do it, work. So you can see the quadrants at the base of the couples line, and the couples line emerging all 5 stages out of it. It starts at safety and attraction. Reality throws us into roles. If you're fortunate, you work out the patterns, you get to relational. And then what I added on top of this is first love, when you're really in love with the person, not your projected ideal, and then spiritual love. So here it is again, removing the quadrants. And it starts down to safety and attraction. And you can see that I'm using O'Fallon's developmental stages to roughly approximate what it takes as an individual in order to participate. And remember, the person with the lowest stage of development and capacities sets the ceiling on intimacy, because it takes 2 in order to be able to do it. So, love starts at safety and attraction. This is where we meet someone. It's such a wonderful feeling, romantic love, powerful attraction, chemistry's running, the pheromones are going off. You think you died and went to heaven. You think you met the most perfect person. On the bottom, you can see most romantic movies stop at this stage because they don't know where to go. And I watch a lot of romance and relationship movies because it gives me an idea of the lower left and what's going on in the culture, because they are getting a little more complex, but they don't have any kind of a trajectory into the deeper stages and whatnot. So what's really going on at this stage is what Wilbur defined as the pre-trans fallacy. You can see in red there. And what it is emotional enthusiasm fueled by body sensations versus, this is really important, the much more developed capacities of empathy and understanding. Those are much higher order abilities. Excuse me. So, in keeping going, what ends safety and attraction, the first stage, is time. In time, what happens is he's non-communicative and withdrawn. She's irritable and critical. I mean, all the nuances of the familiarity of getting to know somebody are going to surface. No one gets to stay there. So now they're in the role stage, because the safety and attraction and how easy life is, and it can last anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months, especially if you're a long distance away from each other. It can stay up and running. But as soon as you live together and you begin to go through day in, day out issues that we all go through, then it's not going to be near as idyllic. Now, there's 2 persistent fantasies that are at the role stage and the relational stage. And I see this clinically all the time. 1, the fear that I made a mistake in who I partnered with. That's never true. When I see couples, it makes sense developmentally why they're together. Most often, it's a reflection of their parents' relationship, and it's a complementary relationship. And in many ways, they're picking up right where their parents left off. I mean, we inherit all of this. This is all the emergent that's going on. But I would estimate in about 20% or so couples, if their parents' relationship was really bad, they make a 180-degree swing. But they're with the correct partner oftentimes. But there are significant deficiencies depending upon each person's developmental history. But usually one partner has capacities the other one doesn't. But if the power balance isn't equal, and I talk about that more in my paper on regression and videos on regression, then the cream doesn't rise to the top, and the positive effect of each person's capacities doesn't surface. Have you had some sense of that, Puria, in your own life?
Yeah, definitely.
So even though people have that fantasy that, they might have picked the wrong person, it isn't. It's just that they're not going down there. So that's fantasy one. The other second most significant fantasy, and you can see how the lower left cultural messages feed it, is that other peoples get to live at safety and attraction. That somehow life conspired against them and they didn't get that. And look at how ubiquitous it is throughout the culture of these ideas and these fantasies. It's not true. Just like our individual practices in order to reach a level of peace and presence, you got to work at it. You got to get through these stages. And it does get better, but the culture just doesn't support. People don't know where they're going. And I have seen so many times people walk out of a doable relationship because they fall in love and they end up back in safety and attraction, and they give up their history with another person because they're so hungry for that feeling. I admit it's a great feeling, but it isn't reality. You don't really even know the person at that stage. So most people that come to see me, they're at the role stages because they can't get into the relational stage. The relational stage, you notice this is green too. It tracks spiral dynamics. That's the beauty of developmental theory with an integral. It all lines up. They all kind of are saying the same thing, but in different settings and in different capacities. So this didn't really come in line to the 60s, where it was relational. And I'm not sure about Germany, but I remember in the States in the 50s, people looked like they got old by the time they graduated from high school. And even the way they dressed, do you remember that?
Yes.
How they dressed, and I mean, they looked like they were just filling a role, at that point. And that's what people did. And the role stages have been online forever. We don't understand the gift that was given to us, with the 60s and feminism and, the postmodernism going wide mainstream, that we really had choices that we could pick from. And it showed up in an intimacy also. So what happens that's great at this stage is this functional interactional patterns, including problem solving, this flexibility in give and take. This adult child is another presentation. I'll show you later on where it is. And this is kind of moving between who's getting the attention in the moment. And you can see why it's so crucial. And so if my wife's emoting in the moment, and I have to tell men this all the time, all you have to do is reflectively listen. Make sure you're tracking her and attune the best you can, and you're going to be golden. And men always want to fix it. What can I do? You know, they come up with a solution immediately because they're uncomfortable with that level of emotion and feeling. So, I mean, I go over that a million times a week.
Yeah. I mean, I often, when my partner tends to move there, I say, just take off your fixing head. Just stay there, be present and listen.
You know, that's so true, because when men interact, we're looking for solutions. That's agency. Whereas when women, and we're stereotyping a little bit here, interact as communion. You know, it's that felt sense. Personally, I like the communion a lot better than the agency, but the agency is useful. I don't really care that much how a man delivers something. I'm looking for the efficacy of what he says. Whereas oftentimes women are feeling into, do you get me? Are you attuned with me? So you can see what's going to happen when this comes fully online and we have agency and communion more or less equally distributed in dyads. I mean, the promise of this is going to be wonderful because it's always there. And I will touch that as we get going a little bit more. So let's get here. So notice, even at relational stage, the fantasies are there. Those pre-trans fantasies. The fear I made the mistake and who I picked, and others get to live at safety and attraction. So these cultural messages have to be challenged. Even before I got into integral, I was telling couples our ability to imagine love will always exceed our ability to have it. Can you feel that with me?
Beautiful.
Because we're talking about the ideal, and confusing the ideal with reality and allowing the ideal to create discontentment, that's not good.
Yeah, and just what comes up to me is that when you are in these expectations and stories, you are mainly in your head. And for really intimacy, you need to be present with all your levels and not just energy in your head. So then kind of the way to real intimacy is kind of blocked because it only goes in this direction.
Absolutely. But remember what happens. You know, a woman talks to another woman and their spouse did something really great. And because we're all hungry for connection, she goes home irritable. And he says something in the gross state realm. And it's an affirmation of those fears that I'm never going to have it. And those of us in the integral community, we're aware of that hunger. That's why we seek each other out, because we need that affirmation. We need to have resonance and coherence with people. But in intimacy, like a lot of couples, I'm finding even in the integral community, one person is capable of it and the other one isn't. And I'm going to say something about that a little bit more, because that can create a lot of instability, and you can't, you know, you don't want to destroy your relationship, mainly because there aren't a lot of people capable of second tier experiences. One of my good buddies, Larry Kyle, says that he doesn't want to get involved with a woman unless she has third tier capabilities. And I keep going, Larry, good luck in finding her. At least it isn't the physicality. I mean, at least he's looking in the right place on it. But that's the ideal again. So most couples come to me at role stage, and when I get them to the relational stage, they're fine, you know, because their relationship's working, there's give and take, they keep their fantasies, they've never seen anybody at first love, and they're fine, they're out of here. But there's more. If you have the growth, individual growth done, you've worked on enough shadow, you've stabilized out your physiology so you don't overreact to exposure, You have subtle capabilities that you recognize the moments that always want to emerge, then you're capable of first love. And that's where we're going to go next. I'm sorry, I kept mentioning where people could find things, because I keep, so either one of these sites, the Wisdom Factory or the Daily Evolver, everyone knows Jeff Saltzman and Heidi, or if you want something a little bit more formal, there's academic papers I have written that are downloadable on academia.edu. So, first love. This is how I want to introduce it, to get a state experience of it. And this is what people that are relatively healthy and have done their work, they're capable of floating up into first love. They're not, most people, including me, even though I've written all this and I know quite a bit about this, I cannot sustain first love as a center of gravity. I just can't do it. My wife and I can't do it. But we visit it often enough, and I'm going to show you how, that it does create a level of intensity in love that is way beyond what we had previously, even though it can't be our center of gravity. So the introduction, a thought experiment of gratitude. I love thought experiments. Einstein did that in physics, and that's how he came up with relativity and special relativity. So imagine if you were sick and your neighbor picked up the children for you, cooked them dinner. They did a few loads of laundry for you. They vacuumed, they did the dishes, they went to the grocery store, picked up medication for you, because your dog's sick. How would you feel about that neighbor? The gratitude would go through the roof. Your desire to reciprocate and balance out the giving would be huge. But when you think about it, that's what couples do for each other every day of the week. People don't live in the abundance. So what got me thinking about this, it's interesting, you asked me, Puria, how I got into this. And then when I, about 2 years into Integral, this is what I started wondering. Oops, here we go. Why can a couple do 85% of their relationship well, and it's the 15% wrong that becomes 80% of their state experience? Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It really is. I mean, part of our developmental history is this hypervigilance to look out for danger. Mm-hmm. And so because this relationship's so vital, if we're not conscious of what we're always focusing on, so one is looking out for the danger, two is couples really contract in deep intimacy. And the combination of those two prevent people from living at the abundance. But I have to give people a little bit of a break. I mean, how much couple training, intimacy training, marital training do we get? They're going to be laughing at us in the future. They're going to look at our level of sophistication. Like we looked at early medicine when they used, mercury and arsenic and bloodletting. We're going to look pretty bad down the road. And that's all right. I mean, developmentally, it isn't since the 60s, it was just roles. Although in the Shakespeare time, when love became a matter of the heart, rather than arranged marriages, we're moving along this in terms of enlightenment, but it's time we move further because there's more to be had. So to show you this again. So this was the question that got me going. So I began to understand the gratitude and how love is a choice, and it's the ability to focus on what's really good. So at first love, you're finally in love with your partner, not the projected ideal, because your partner is the great neighbor. And when you begin to do this, you're finally free from the pull of safety and attraction, because you know nobody gets to live there. Yeah, it's a wonderful stage. It's probably part of the evolution that got us to procreate. But you give up the fantasy of the fears of mistake and partner selection. Now, you can drop back into the relational stage. Excuse me. My wife and I talk about that a lot in terms of like if she's leading, like she's the navigator when we travel to Europe. I mean, I wouldn't get out of an airport if it was my directional ability. I'm pathetic. So, I'm in the role stage and I'm following her lead. But I take the lead in other areas. Like I'm one of the guys that kind of take the lead in the relationship and lay down things. And that's okay. You can drop into other stages. But when we have the range to access, whatever is, then the relationship's a lot more fulfilling. Mm. So the final stage is the spiritual stage. I've never seen a couple here. I'm only drawing from the individual lines to speculate what it's about. And I've done a lot of work. I'm going to show you quite a bit at this, comparing first love to spiritual love, because it really does lay down breadcrumbs, emotional growth breadcrumbs that show you what needs to be accomplished to get here. But this is rarefied ground. It's probably third tier capabilities. But when a couple's here, deficiencies are expected, explored, and integrated. They're not messing around. They're not having a hard time recognizing shadow. They don't overreact to transparency, and they want to commune here because the territory is so rich in what wants to emerge that the verbiage can't keep up with the complexity and the breadth of what's coming along. There is nothing boring here. They can jointly witness, and it opens up space greater than either could achieve alone. Intuition and subtle energies heighten presence. And those of you into integral get it. You understand it. You feel that presence. You feel the intuition that wants to show us the complexity. And think of an intimate couple doing this and how rich it could be because they know the nuances. They know the shadow. And I love Whitehood. It's an ongoing creative advance into novelty. I mean, doesn't it sound great?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we have glimpses into that, kind of entering it. And there are a few things which I noticed. I would say, or I would like to hear your opinion. I mean, I experienced the more I, on an individual level, realized, let's say, my heart, my deeper levels, my soul level, where I feel very fundamentally nurtured and not looking for fulfillment so much from the outside, then the expectations really go down because I don't need so much something that I feel good and that I feel the love. And this takes a lot of pressure out of a couple's relationship.
That's brilliant because you'll see when I show you a slide down the road, even at first love, a couple is still looking for affirmation. It's not until I think either deep first love or spiritual love that what you said emerges. Now, you're getting me to think about that, because maybe it emerges a little quicker than I thought. Because that chronic need for affirmation is ubiquitous in couples. And you hear it. I want to be heard. I want to be fully heard. So because most couples can't even listen, they're paying attention to their own internal dialogue rather than embodying the person they're with for a moment. That becomes a chronic deficit. Affirmation is always on the table. But I love that, what you just said, taking the pressure off your spouse, assuming they're capable of realizing you're doing that. Because if they're not there themselves, even though you're showing up with that level of capacity and generosity, they may not see it.
Yeah. No, and the other thing, what I notice is, let's say how I can explain that. When I'm present enough that I'm connected to a deeper level and I can see how my personality is reacting, but I'm not totally identified with it, then I can still share it, but just share, look, my ego is triggered and this is going on, but I also know that I'm not just that, but still communicate it, and then what I noticed that often this already invites a humor in the situation, where we are human, we still have this automatic reactions in our emotional body or whatsoever, but when I'm able to not be fully identified with it, it just moves smoother, and humor comes up and we can smile, and we don't ignore it. It's not pushed away, but it's also not that heavy, and I would say we don't believe so much in that anymore.
This is great, because you're going to see how I've said some of these things, but I love it because before you even see it, you're anticipating the capacities there. But you're absolutely right. Being able to drop into either third or fourth person perspective is a way of staying centered. So as material emerges that could be overwhelming and flooding, you can drop out of that and not over-identify with that. And that's what people deep in first love or spiritual love do. I think of that optical telescope, with a big mirror. Underneath it, my understanding, there's these little actuators that adjust the mirror depending upon the wavelength that's getting distorted as the light travels through the atmosphere. That's what we're doing. In order to show up in the abundance, we're adjusting. And I love how you articulated that. You're not over-identifying with the flood. You're kind of going, whoa, what was that? Mm-hmm. And then when you really trust somebody, we go transparent and we let them watch with us. And we go, say more. I didn't even see that. Because even though it might be shadow, it doesn't matter. Of course, there's much more than we are aware of. Developmentally, we're going back in time and we're looking through the eyes, our adult eyes, and what we've learned and what we perceived as children. That software is still online. Mm-hmm. So you can see how we're just on the infancy of being able to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and then I have another question, Tom. What I also notice is, we are kind of a funny couple because we don't like our surface and our personality so much. We knew this from the beginning. We kind of felt a call that something deeper wants to get us together, and we trusted into that. And after some years, I just thought it's so good that we don't like our personality so much, because we are really invited to move into a deeper level and relate from there, because our surfaces could easily all the time say something is wrong in you, I don't like this, I don't like that. So we would maybe separate very soon. But this invitation to drop deeper and on a soul level, there is a beautiful flow, and there is growth and presence and being available for healing all what you shared. And I thought, actually, I sense it as a gift if you are with someone together where not so hooked and you don't like the surface so much. I mean, it's a bit crazy to put it or see it like that, because it's not so common. But when I look at it closely, I thought it's a gift, because we need to go deeper, otherwise we would run away.
Absolutely. You know, those complementary functions that we talked about earlier on, those can be a source of contention. But when you begin to resonate with somebody, you know it's there. Like, this is the first time you and I have interacted. But when we meet somewhere, we're going to recognize that we've already opened this space before. You're going to smile. I'm going to smile. We're going to go back there in a moment. In an intimate couple, that ambiance becomes a very strong beacon. And it's easy to let go of all those surface things and to try to stay in that abundance, because why wouldn't you? It's a form of love that when I run into people, I almost love them because I can feel them. Love becomes complicated all of a sudden. I'm thinking of Gaffney's work down the road. I think this is going to get complicated. We're not ready for it yet. But you feel it, because I know you can go there. I know you there. So I think that's what happens, is it makes it a lot easier to get by the day in and day out type things. In couples, I'm always telling people, if it's a minor annoyance.
Tom, I just want to close the window because there is a loud noise outside.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't hear that noise though.
A neighbor is working in the garden. So I'm back with you. Sorry.
So I forgot exactly where we were. Yeah, you were saying how once you open that space, it's easy to get there and it becomes a choice. And that's the whole idea of finding first love, because you go back there easier. You guys clearly have been playing with first love. And I'm amazed. I'd love to have another dialogue, find out how you guys found it. But I suspect your individual practices are so robust that, you know, it was two people capable. And you don't always get that. You usually get one person pushing into that territory and trying to take the other person with them.
So what I would say, Tom, because we also checked that, and I would say what we really have in common is that our first love is life, is divinity, is the mystery of life, and the partner is secondary, and I am also secondary. So the orientation to something much bigger than our personality and our relationship, this we really share. And I would say that feels like a much bigger container where everything can move and appear and be looked at. And as you also said, I didn't come across a couple where both really shared this. Yeah, and I mean, from both of us, it's our second relationship. We were with other partners before, and that I would say is very beneficial for moving together and also using everything what appears there also for our growth individually and also in relationship. That's how I would say.
You know, given how rare this is, maybe sometime in the road, you and I can do an interview with your partner.
Yeah,
If we can get him to do it.
yeah.
I would love to explore that territory with you guys, you
Mhm.
know, and ask, how does it show up? How
Mhm.
have you grown through time on that? You know, how did it change? You know, where do you bump into your limitations? Because there's very few partners like that.
Yeah,
Is
yeah. And my daughter, she witnessed our difficulties also quite often, and she said, "You guys, you really must have such a deep commitment for growth and evolution, because I see how hard time you have on your ego levels, but you just stay and you just keep going." I mean, I'm also kind of sometimes surprised, but it's also, yeah, also not looking so much for just short-term goodies, you
yeah,
know. I would say it's really it's and yeah, yeah. It's,
yeah, it's the ambiance that you keep running that basically says, I love you in almost every moment. Is I'm living in the abundance of your presence, and I know who you are. I see the divinity. And when that runs, even in couples that don't have your capacity, when they get a taste of that, it starts to accelerate their evolution. So, can I show you some of that to show?
please,
Because
please.
there's very few couples at your level. I'm looking at couples getting from relational to first,
Mm,
and because that's where most people are.
mhm.
So, so that's spiritual. There isn't very many. A lot of these you've already anticipated. See up here it says first love, first spiritual love. It's amazing. So at first love, stage 4, there's some ability to look at self while the partner observes. Now, if this was relational, I'd be saying the partner panics when they're exposed at that moment, or they go to denial, or they say, I don't do it all the time. I don't do it all the time. Now, at first love, there's some ability, but at spiritual love, transparency is ubiquitous. It's like, I want to play in that field. We've already said at first love, there's a tendency for exposure and shame. You can see I'm just reviewing the colored ones right now. There's still a tendency that exposure creates shame. Whereas, as you anticipated, Puria, there's quick adjustments to exposure. That's what I found so amazing. And maybe that's happening earlier than I think. Um, Down here, lower right interactional patterns transmute regression. Do you have a sense of what I mean by regression?
Maybe give some practical example in relationship. I know it from health, uh, that yeah, with
So,
sickness when you have regression or.
yeah, those could be examples, but you know how we have pet names for each other and couples will baby talk with each other? You know, they might call each other my sweetie, my teddy bear.
Uh-huh.
Um, what we're doing is we're tapping a younger part of ourselves,
Mhm.
and the partner is honoring that and saying, I love all parts of you. That's good regression.
Mhm.
When there's a rupture in connection and a person regresses, they feel abandoned and exposed. Because the lower right interactional patterns, and again, you can see more discussion on that in terms of adult child, they don't have the patterns down to transmute those regressions into functional appearances in that moment. So handling regression is a big issue. Even though Freud said regression in service of the ego and Jung agreed with it, there's very little literature that talks about regression in this psychoanalytic field, which is to me a hole in the field, because on the ground, you can see how important it is when my spouse is losing it, I need to step in and calm them down. Tell me what's going on. What's going on? Tell me, I'm here. Okay. Okay. See, I'm stabilizing that. The worst thing I can do, he's yelling. Now it's two kids in the room. Yeah. And that happens so often. I can hear them in the parking lot coming up to my office doing that.
Yeah.
So regression is crucial. And that comes fully online at stage 3, is that we're stabilizing the regression so that we can transmute it into high order stages to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So share a little bit more. So we got that. Oops. So this is the second page of this. I made it bigger so everybody could see it. So in first love, we're open to the idea of ownership of projection. In spiritual love, it actually becomes a dialectic where we're using this as discovery. We're not just kind of stumbling into it. We're like, bring it on. I want to hear this. I know this is showing the complexity of me individually, of us collectively. And you can see how much it actually takes in order to play in these fields. So down lower on the first love, there's some use of intuition and subtle energies. Whereas a spiritual love, they are just surfing that emergent tide. They are, feeling the power of it. And then finally on the bottom, in first love, there's some ability to self-soothe, to calm down, like you had said earlier, you drop into third or fourth person and do it. In spiritual love, you don't need to do it. You understand what's emerging. Even though you're adjusting to the information and the flow, there's practically, and I'm guesstimating here, there's practically no need to self-soothe anymore to do this. So you can see the trajectory of where we all got to get and how few people there actually are that can do all of this. I want to get to how can people actually use this? How can they get from relational to first love? Because that's where most people are going to be, especially people that are, into consciousness and why they would come to the Consciousness Evolution Summit. They're going to be looking for this in the relationship. So this is how we do it. You know how when we're watching a movie and there's a poignant moment in the movie and you can feel it. It resonates for us. I did that at IEC by showing the Mandy video. Did you find that video powerful?
Yes, of course. Maybe too powerful.
Yeah, I realized that I was clobbering people with that while I was doing it. But I wanted to make sure they felt it.
They did.
They did, yeah. People would tell me they were crying in their breakout groups. But we're watching a movie with our partner, and it's very, very poignant in a moment. All it has to do is show something about children and them struggling. And because it taps our own developmental history, we're resonating in that moment. And the goal becomes that we're going to pause the video for a minute or two. We're going to look at each other and hold that level of energy. And it's amazing what emerges in that moment is, can I trust my spouse to be there? Can I hold the sacredness of that moment and push back the fear that he or she's going to see me as weak, as vulnerable? Christine and I do this regularly, but there's moments where I still contract and I hide. Even though I wrote all this, I don't always show up all the time. And she is the hardest person to do it with because of the history we have. She once told me when she got into Integral, initially when we'd go to conferences, she would say, Tom, I want to go in my own breakout groups. I go, okay. And then eventually she said, Tom, I want to be in your group, which I took as she was trusting me more. But then when we started doing an exercise like this, she added to my knowledge. She said, Tom, in order to do this, I have to put aside the parts of you that aren't always here. I compartmentalize that part of you. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. Thank you for telling me that.
Great, I like it.
Right, because that's what we're doing, right? Is we're not going to the fear. Maybe she ridiculed me once, or I might have said something insensitive to her, but not in that moment. I'm holding it. I'm holding that moment. And I think what it does, it lays down emotional circuitry capable of handling that amperage. And it begins to sustain itself. So we're going to hold it for 30 seconds. As we get going, we feel beyond our own feelings and we begin to resonate with the person we're with. And once we feel strong resonance with the partner, then we can move on into further stages. So in 3, we're noticing how it's becoming easier to enter this space. And notice I called it we space here. I have to change that to this is resonance. We're not quite at we space yet, but I developed this before my thought in the other areas. But this is sustaining resonance and beginning to develop coherence. Coherence is just beginning to develop here. And then we generalize in 4. We notice the commonality of feelings you share with countless others. I know you interviewed Barbara Max Hubbard before, and this non-local awareness, like even though you're probably 7,000 miles away from you, I can feel you. And I don't know what the heck this is. And, that scientific side of me that asks empirical questions is, what is this field? What is this energy? Is it quantifiable? But I can't deny my state experience of it and how it comes online. So, okay. So in number 5, we begin to initiate this resonance with only a look or a kiss. So do you ever feel what I'm saying there? Yeah. So Christine's usually sitting here in the morning when I leave for work, and I'll be walking out the door over there, you can see, and I'll say, Christine, I'll see you tonight. And this is what she does. She goes, it's like she's remembering that place. And it's kind of cute because she gets so absorbed in writing her reports, and that to go back there, it doesn't flow quite easily, but it's kind of cute how she does that.
Sweet.
But it doesn't need the external stimulus. It doesn't need that anymore. And you've already described how you guys already do that to me. That's why I was so excited that, oh my God, I actually found a couple that can do this. Because I have never seen anyone doing that.
It was many years hard work to move there, really.
You know, and I'm amazed because you did it without a roadmap. I mean, you did it by putting this stuff together,
Yeah.
uh, but kind of understanding this mapping of this territory. And there is so much more that I'm sure I'm missing. But you know, we are where we are. We're just laying it out.
Yeah, and what I also would say, what really helps is when you get more and more delicate in noticing the different frequency, the different space, when you are moving in your ego, when you're moving more in a relational coherence, when you really move in a we space, and when you get the differences, you more and more really get the taste of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can look across the room and go, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
It's funny, a lot of this, I think I mentioned up front, is I'm finding 40% of people that show up in my practice with either generalized anxiety or panic disorders they're highly sensitive people. And when I settle them down, it's funny how quickly they go into this resonance and coherence. That's what, when I get them in the waiting room, they look at me and they're like, whoa. And as soon as I can get back into the office, because I'm doing everything virtual like other people, there's a group of people I'm going to put together. It's 7 women and 1 man. You can see where it's emerging from. And none of them know integral, but I'm going to put them together to see what I can do with this level of talent. And they're all, you know, I make sure their individual issues are cleaned up enough that they can function in a group and there's not a ton of shadow emerging for them. But I can't wait to work with those type of people because I think that's going to show up as a diagnostic group. It's highly sensitive people. And people probably, Elaine Aaron is the one, although she's pathologizing a little bit more than I would on it. And she already wrote about couples. My wife got me the book on it. So,
sounds interesting.
yeah, that's another area. But I really want to interview. I wasn't joking. I want to interview the 2 of you if he's willing to do that.
Yeah, I can ask him. I mean, he's always a bit shyer because his English is not that good, but mine is quite all right, so I can ask him.
Yeah, and maybe you could translate some of the subtleties if he doesn't understand it.
Yeah,
But
of course.
you know, if we achieve it, people are going to feel it. Because if the 3 of us can create that state experience, I mean, it'd be wonderful for other people to actually see a couple do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also would say, really also for our audience, we talking about that and we are moving in that and we are kind of really vibrating in that. This is inviting everyone. And this is also why I had this intention to do the summit, because my senses being in this coherence is so crucial for being able to face difficulties and to tap into our creativity and expand really, and to use this precious time as a door, as a portal to move really into our next evolution. So and I sense more and more people really just vibrating in that. It's a key. We need to go there, and that's why I also felt so attracted to invite you to share about that, to talk about it. It's yeah, I sense it's a key.
Yeah, every time I think about what you just said, the question comes up is, how hungry is the world for this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, and we can see we're on the edge as teal comes online. But it's, Heidi said, and I wish I could find the quote, that when the violence in the home, when the limited capacity in the home is brought up to higher level, it's going to create a better society.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my area of contribution is, can I roadmap the intimate couple? Because those people are capable of going out there and pixie dusting people. Look at what you're doing. You create these platforms that we can share our work on. And I get to go into the minutiae and play with it. But it's really a collective as we emerge this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of a sudden, you know, and you know all this from Spiral and people know this, nationalism doesn't become as important. It's really the love we share across it. And just that wonderful feeling that by being in these communities, we get a taste of a future that is going to be very different than where we are today.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for bringing that really into our awareness. And I mean, we are coming at the end, Tom. I can't believe how fast the time was moving. But I would like to give you also the opportunity to just share. I mean, I will provide your website link, but is there anything in particular really relevant maybe in fall? So the broadcast of our interviews will be in fall 2020. What you want to share or invite people into?
So if you want information, you can find it at drtomhabib.com. If you're really steeped in integral theory and you know something about the scientific method, as you had said, Puria, is I'm heading up IEC's International Consortium of Integral Scholars. And if you're interested in getting involved in that, get a hold of me. Because these days I'm spending a lot of time on that and on couples. So that's really where my focus of my energy is right now, is between these two fields. And I invite you, if you want to join San Diego Integral, we're doing everything online. And you can find this on Facebook, San Diego Integral. And we're really experimenting with these communities and developing the path towards we space.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm really appreciate what you do and what you provide with your work. And it was a pleasure to sit in your space, to be able to move in that with you. And I want to also thank our audience for taking this time, for really kind of also noticing that we can really use relationship as so much different that we learned it from our parents and out of movies. There is so much in there and support to propel us forward. And thank you for joining.
Thank you.